Well, hello there! Isn't it just so nice to sit down by the fireplace and enjoy this peaceful moment? What's that? You want to hear a story? You want to hear the story of the most hated class in Team Fortress 2? Well, alright then, get your tea and biscuits ready, and let's dive deep into this wonderful and magical story. So there we have it, a story about loss and vengeance, one that unfortunately never got a happy ending. But now that we got that out of the way, my name is Rats, and today I want to talk about arguably one of the most hated class in all of gaming, not just Team Fortress 2. And if it wasn't obvious already, I'm talking about the Pyro. The Pyro from Team Fortress 2. Now, in all seriousness, I do think that the reason that Pyro receives so much hate is more complicated than you may think. So why not talk about it? And yes, I am aware that there are more classes in the game that can be argued that they are actually more hated than Pyro, but this is my video, so I don't care. Now, to make this video a bit more comprehensible and less chaotic, I split it into 3 parts. First of all, new Pyro players, noobs, gibbuses, whatever you want to call them. Second of all, experienced players, ones that know how to do more than press one button. And lastly, the actual role that Pyro fills in the overall game balance. Go figure. Firstly, I want to talk about Pyro and his relationship with new players. One of the most popular copypastas that you are bound to see in the in-game chat whenever somebody dies to a Pyro is quote W plus M1. The phrase stands for walk forward and shoot. It makes fun of the fact that these 2 buttons are all you really need to find success when playing as Pyro. And yeah, it's kinda true. I mean, Pyro is quite literally the easiest class to play with and do decent with as a new player. And while that isn't particularly a bad thing, obviously just because a class is easy to play doesn't make it bad or even unbalanced. It cannot go unnoticed that Pyro just simply stands out from other mercenaries. All of the other classes require you to learn certain skills to be effective with them. From basic things like fast movement, accurate aim with projectiles, strategy, rocket jumping, and so on. But Pyro just doesn't have any of that. On top of all of that, Pyro has some of the best statistics, being the 3rd fastest class and having the 3rd highest health bar in the game. All of that while having consistent high damage output without even having to aim really. As long as you are looking in the general direction of your enemies, they will be taking damage. And probably die.
Little help?
Obviously, this leads to players believing that Pyro is just simply an unfair class to play against. But putting those hurt feelings aside, I think there's a much bigger issue that this creates, and it especially affects newcomers to the game. Just allow me to explain. Imagine this, you're taking a duel against another player, and despite your best efforts, you end up losing, which is fine. You can attribute this loss to many things, such as missing your shots, not dodging enough, etc, etc. But at the same time, you can say that your opponent was just simply better than you. He had better aim, took better advantage of your surroundings, or just in general had more experience in the game than you did. This helps to create a learning curve, allowing players to learn from their mistakes and see where they need to improve. Now take this same example but against a Pyro. You lose and the only thing you can really say is that you should have killed the Pyro before he burned you to death. There just isn't a lot to take from it. You can't exactly say that your opponent was better than you if all he really did was walk forward. You can only blame yourself, which just leads to getting even more frustrated. And you might say that I'm exaggerating and nitpicking these scenarios, which is fair, But clearly this has happened enough times to induce so much hate for the class itself. Well, okay then, if we can agree that Pyro is a bit of a cheat code for new players, letting them get away with more than they probably should, then surely when it comes to actual experienced and skilled Pyro players, there shouldn't be an issue, right? Right? Please say yes. Well, not exactly. When it comes to actual skilled Pyro players, we encounter a completely different issue. One that might be worse than the previous one. You see, Pyro in a way reminds me of a babysitter. He dictates what you can and can't do, and all of it has to do with his Air Blast. You see, when a Pyro Pokemon evolves into its skilled counterpart, it gains a new attack. That attack is bound to its right mouse button and it's called Air Blast. It's a powerful blast of air that reflects anything in its way, including hopes and dreams. With only one button, Pyro is able to deny any type of rocket launcher, Demon's pipe launchers, or any projectile for that matter. He's almost invincible against a Demonite subclass, or anybody with a melee really. You can't even walk near an edge without being admitted to NASA's space launching program. What? What is that Air Blast force? And that's not to mention that he is a direct counter to Spy's class as a whole. And I am not the only one to point this out. One of the most popular responses to this argument is to just equip one of the shotguns, or just simply don't play that specific class at all.
I'm doing still surprisingly good, even though I'm not. I don't have a shotgun, there's just nothing I can do.
And while I get where this is coming from, I can't help but feel like this goes against the entire point of Team Fortress 2. One of the main ways that TF2 differentiates itself from other hero shooter games is its freedom of customizability. You can play whoever you want, however you want. If you don't like a certain weapon, you exchange it for a different one. This makes it so that every encounter in this game feels unique, and is the main reason why so many people love this game. Now, to be fair, you can't just pick 3 bad weapons and then complain that you keep dying. But we are talking about some of the most popular weapons in the game, ones that quite literally define their respective class. And while I do agree that each weapon should have their own weaknesses, it feels excessive to have a class that can punish half the player base for just simply playing the game in a way they want to. This whole argument also feels a bit hypocritical, because for a class that can abuse other players' weaknesses to such an extent, Pyro himself doesn't even have many himself. Pyro realistically has only 2 main weaknesses. The first one is range. As long as you keep your distance, you can avoid being melted like a marshmallow within seconds. Thank God that Valve didn't coincidentally give Pyro a secondary weapon to negate this weakness. What a disaster that would have been, am I right? And the second one is high health and damage dealers, such as heavies and sentries. But honestly, even that feels like stretching it, because this applies to any class outside of Spy and Sniper. So is there any saving grace for this hellish creature of a class that we call Pyro? Maybe. After watching all of that, you probably assume that I think Pyro is an easy and unbalanced class. But that's not entirely true. If you were to ask me if Pyro is balanced, I'd probably say yes. Maybe. Probably. Who knows? Even though I sometimes feel like all Pyro players deserve to burn in hell for an eternity, I try to remind myself what he brings to the overall game balance. Pyro himself may not be a perfectly balanced class, but his influence on the overall balance of the game cannot be discredited. Without him, the game would probably be filled with explosive weapon spam, with each corner a death trap. Spies would essentially freely run around the map and target any new players, if it wasn't for the Pyro spy checking, of course. Especially in casual. And teams would be probably even more unbalanced than they already are without an easy map control class to pick up by new players. In conclusion, while I do find Pyros frustrating to play against, I would much rather continue playing against them than play in a universe without them. I would talk about potential ways to try and improve this problem, but we already know that there is a higher chance of me reaching 100 million subs than Valve getting off their butts and doing something for the game. But hey, don't let me stop you. If you want to subscribe for my YouTube channel or follow me on Twitch, then who am I to stop you? Feel free to do so. And lastly, I just wanted to give a huge shout out to all the people from my Twitch who support me, my Discord channel, Here are the list of people who helped me make this video. You could see them in the background footage doing some funny scenes for me. Also these people who support me, huge shout out to them, they are amazing. Shout out to these people who drew stuff for me, I don't know why you do this. And yeah, thank you so much for the support. It's so unexpected, I don't even have any words for it. And yeah, if you wanna follow me on Twitch, then the link will be in the description. I'm sorry for delaying this video so much, but life has gotten in the way. That, and it's 40 degrees in this room, and I'm dying, that's why I'm dressed like I am. I would be naked, but I don't think YouTube will like that. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye!